the global skies just shook. China's brand new C929 aircraft has completed a jaw-dropping 12,000-kilometer test flight, a milestone that has Western aviation giants on edge. For decades, Boeing and Airbus dominated the long-haul market, but now Beijing has unveiled a challenger powerful enough to redraw the map of global air travel. This isn't just about a plane, it's about independence, prestige, and the future of aviation itself. With a range that rivals the best of the West and the ambition to fly even further, China is sending a clear message. The age of Western monopoly in the skies may be over. When we talk about China's new C929 aircraft, it's impossible to ignore the bigger picture. This jet didn't just appear overnight. It is the result of decades of ambition, planning, and a very specific goal: breaking free from Western dominance in the skies. For years, China has relied almost entirely on Boeing and Airbus for its growing demand in long-haul travel. Every major Chinese airline has filled its fleet with the Boeing 777, the 787 Dreamliner, and the Airbus A330 or A350. But while those jets carried millions of passengers, they also carried a reminder: China was dependent on the West for one of the most strategic industries in the world. The original concept was born as a joint project between China and Russia, known as the CR929. The idea was bold: combine Russian expertise in wide-body design with China's industrial scale to create a new competitor for the A350 and 787. For a time, it looked like this partnership could work. But as politics shifted, as sanctions grew harsher, and as the two sides clashed over design leadership, the dream partnership began to crumble. In the end, Russia focused inward on its MC-21, while China took the project and rebranded it as its own, the C929. Why does this matter so much? Because long-haul wide-body aircraft are not just about moving people. They are about strategic independence. Whoever builds the planes controls the technology, the jobs, and the supply chains. And when Western governments place sanctions, the ability to manufacture your own jets suddenly becomes priceless. For China, the C929 represents more than an airplane. It is a national symbol of technological rise, much like Huawei's chips or the country's space program. By developing a jet that can fly 12,000 kilometers nonstop, Beijing is proving it can master one of the most complex engineering challenges in the modern world. And the timing couldn't be more perfect. With Chinese airlines projected to need over 8,000 new aircraft by 2040, the domestic market alone could sustain the C929 program. But Beijing's ambitions don't stop at home. This aircraft is designed to compete globally, especially in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, regions where Boeing and Airbus once felt unchallenged. The first chapter of the C929 is a story of ambition, breakaways, and bold national pride. But the next question is, does it have the technology to truly challenge the giants of the West? To understand why the C929's 12,000-kilometer test flight has the aviation world buzzing, we need to look closely at its design and technology. This is not a simple copy of a Boeing or Airbus jet. China has spent years crafting a machine that it hopes will stand shoulder to shoulder with the world's most advanced airliners. The C929 is envisioned as a wide-body, twin-aisle aircraft, capable of seating between 280 and 350 passengers, depending on the cabin configuration. That puts it squarely in the same category as the Airbus A350 and the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, two of the most successful long-haul jets in history. Its 12,000-kilometer range means it can connect Beijing to New York, Shanghai to London, or Guangzhou to Sydney without refueling. This is the very definition of intercontinental reach. In terms of materials, the C929 follows the modern playbook of advanced aviation. Over 50% of its structure is made from composite materials. Lightweight, durable, and efficient. This reduces weight, improves fuel efficiency, and lowers maintenance costs. The wings are designed with advanced aerodynamics, borrowing lessons from both Western and domestic research, with curved winglets that cut drag and extend range. The cockpit is expected to feature state-of-the-art avionics, with glass displays, fly-by-wire controls, and Chinese-developed software. This is another crucial step. By moving away from Western avionics suppliers, China ensures that future sanctions or trade disputes won't ground its fleet. The biggest challenge, however, lies in the engines. For now, the C929 prototypes are expected to use engines sourced from Western manufacturers, likely Rolls-Royce or General Electric. But China is rapidly pushing forward with its own CJ2000 turbofan project, a domestically produced engine designed specifically for the C929. If successful, it would free the aircraft from any reliance on foreign power plants and make it truly independent. How does it stack up against its rivals? On paper, the C929's range is nearly identical to the Boeing 787-9 and slightly less than the Airbus A350-900. Its passenger capacity also falls in the same category. Where China aims to stand out is in cost and adaptability. With state backing and cheaper production costs, the C929 could undercut Boeing and Airbus prices, offering airlines an affordable alternative in an era of razor-thin profit margins. In short, the C929 is not just another plane, it's a technological statement. But in aviation, technology alone is never enough. The true test is how politics and economics will shape the aircraft's future. The
story of the C929 is not just about wings, engines, and range. It's about politics and power. When China announced that its new jet had completed a 12,000-kilometer test flight, it sent a clear signal to Washington, Brussels, and every major aviation boardroom: we are no longer dependent. For decades, the global aviation industry has been dominated by a duopoly, Boeing and Airbus. Together, they controlled more than 90% of the long-haul aircraft market. Airlines had no real alternatives. If you wanted to fly passengers across oceans, you had to buy American or European. This monopoly wasn't just about profits. It also gave the West enormous leverage. When sanctions were imposed on other nations, aircraft deliveries could be suspended. Spare parts could be restricted. Entire airlines could be crippled overnight. China took note. The trade war with the United States, combined with technology bans on Huawei, semiconductors, and even satellite systems, revealed a painful truth. Relying on the West for critical technology was a national vulnerability. Aviation was the next battlefield. That's why the C929 matters so much. To Beijing, it is not simply a passenger aircraft. It's a shield against sanctions. If relations with Washington sour further, Chinese airlines will still have a domestic alternative for long-haul travel. And that is exactly what makes Boeing and Airbus nervous. The West has already reacted with skepticism. Analysts in the US argue that the C929 will struggle to meet international safety standards or attract global airlines. European voices suggest that without proven reliability, no major carrier outside of China would risk billions on an untested jet. But behind closed doors, there is a different mood: concern. Because once upon a time, people said the same thing about China's smartphones, high-speed rail, or even its space program. And now, in many of those fields, China is either competing at the top or leading outright. The politics are also global. Countries in Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America, many of which are already deepening trade ties with China, may welcome the C929 as a cheaper alternative to Western aircraft. If Beijing offers financing packages and state-backed support, it could carve out a significant share of markets traditionally dominated by Boeing and Airbus. In short, the C929's test flight is more than aviation news. It's a geopolitical statement. And for the first time in decades, the West realizes its monopoly on the skies may be slipping.
The C929's 12,000-kilometer test flight is more than a technical milestone. It's a symbolic breakthrough. For the first time in decades, Boeing and Airbus are facing a genuine challenger in the skies. China has proven that it can not only design and build a wide-body jet, but also send a message to the world. The monopoly of Western aviation is no longer guaranteed. Yes, challenges remain: engines, certification, and international trust. But history tells us one thing: China rarely stops once it sets its course. From high-speed rail to space exploration, the country has transformed doubt into dominance. The C929 could follow the same path, rewriting the future of long-haul travel. For passengers, this may mean more competition, lower ticket prices, and new routes connecting continents. For airlines, it may mean a cheaper alternative to Boeing and Airbus. And for the aviation industry, it signals the dawn of a truly multipolar era in the skies. The world is watching, and the next flights of the C929 will either confirm the hype or change aviation forever. If you want to stay ahead of these game-changing stories in aviation, subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and join us on this journey into the future of flight.